The massive ship appeared above Earth without any warning on a Tuesday morning. It was bigger than any city, stretching across the sky like a dark metal mountain that blocked out the sun. People all over the world stopped what they were doing and stared up at the impossible sight hanging in their blue sky. President Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when his phone started ringing with calls from every government agency on the planet. General Lisa Carter burst into his office without knocking, her face pale and serious. She had been running so fast that she was still catching her breath when she spoke. The ship was not from Earth. That much was clear to everyone who looked at it. No human technology could build something that large or make it float silently in space above their heads. The metal was black and smooth with strange lights that pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Then the message came. Every television screen, every radio, every phone, and every computer on Earth received the same transmission at exactly the same time. The voice that spoke was not human. It sounded like rocks grinding together. But somehow everyone could understand the words perfectly. Ambassador Zixathera of the Galactic Council spoke to all of humanity at once. The being appeared on every screen as a tall creature made of what looked like living crystal. Its body reflected light in ways that made it hard to focus on, and when it moved, the crystals chimed like distant bells. The message was simple and terrible. Earth had 7 days to surrender completely to the Galactic Council. Humanity must submit to their rule without any conditions or arguments. If they refused, the Council would destroy every living thing on the planet. There would be no negotiations and no second chances. The crystal being explained that 12 advanced alien civilizations had joined together to form the Council. They had been watching Earth for a long time and had decided that humans were too dangerous to be left alone. Humanity had to be controlled before they became a threat to the peaceful galaxy. President Morrison sat in his chair and listened to the message with his mouth open. Defense Secretary Ryan Walsh stood next to him, writing notes on a paper that kept tearing because his hands were shaking. General Carter was already on another phone, calling every military base in the country. Around the world, other leaders were having the same terrible morning. Prime Minister Amanda Brooks in London was staring at her screen, while her advisors talked loudly around her. Chancellor Kevin Park in Seoul was trying to call other world leaders, but everyone was trying to call everyone else at the same time. President Maria Santos in Brazil was watching the news with her entire cabinet crowded into her office. The alien ship was not just big. It was impossibly big. Admiral Ben Hughes, who knew more about space technology than almost anyone on Earth, sent his first report to the president within an hour. The ship was 3 times larger than anything humanity had ever built. Its energy readings were off every chart they had. The technology was so advanced that their computers could not even figure out how it worked. Dr. Alex Turner, Earth's best scientist who studied alien life, was brought to the White House faster than any government car had ever moved through traffic. He looked at the data and shook his head slowly. The beings on that ship were more advanced than humans in every possible way. Their technology was probably thousands of years ahead of anything Earth could build. But something strange started happening while all the world leaders were panicking and calling emergency meetings. Normal people, regular humans who were just trying to live their lives, began to react in a way that nobody expected. They started laughing. It began on social media. Someone posted a picture of the giant alien ship next to a photo of their angry cat with the words, "Good luck getting Whiskers to surrender." Within minutes, thousands of people were sharing similar jokes. The internet filled up with pictures and videos of humans making fun of the situation. A man in Texas posted a video of himself in his backyard, looking up at the ship and yelling, "You want me to surrender? I can't even get my teenager to clean his room." The video was shared 1,000,000 times in the first hour. A woman in Japan made a comic drawing showing the crystal alien trying to understand why humans could not agree on what to have for dinner, let alone surrender their entire planet. People translated it into every language on Earth and sent it to their friends. Children were especially confused by the whole thing. A little girl in Canada asked her mother why the space people thought Earth had a king or queen to surrender for everyone. When her mother tried to explain that Earth had many different countries with different leaders, the girl asked if the aliens were going to wait for everyone to vote on surrendering, because that would take a very long time. The laughter spread faster than any news report. Comedians around the world began making jokes about the aliens. Late-night television shows had emergency episodes where they made fun of the council's demands. People posted videos of themselves pretending to surrender to their pets, their houseplants, and their breakfast cereal. President Morrison found himself in the strange position of trying to coordinate a response to the most serious threat in human history, while his own staff was sharing alien memes with each other. General Carter was getting reports from military bases where soldiers were naming the alien ship things like the Big Grumpy Space Rock, and Ambassador Sparkles. The world's leaders tried to hold a serious emergency meeting through video calls, but even they could not ignore what was happening. Every few minutes, someone would get a message or notification from the internet that made them smile despite the terrible situation. Captain Danny Cooper, who was working on the International Space Station, had the closest view of the alien ship. He sent a message to Earth saying that the ship was definitely real and definitely huge, but he also mentioned that it looked like a giant space pickle if you squinted at it the right way. His message was broadcast live to the world and started an entirely new wave of pickle-related alien jokes. By the end of the first day, two things were clear to everyone on Earth. First, humanity was facing the most dangerous threat they had ever encountered. The alien ship could probably destroy their planet without even trying very hard. Second, for some reason that nobody could fully explain, humans were not responding to this threat with fear or panic. They were responding with laughter, jokes, and a strange kind of stubborn amusement that seemed to be growing stronger every hour. The 7-day countdown had begun, but humanity was not spending it the way the Galactic Council expected. Dr. Alex Turner worked through the night with his team, studying every word of the alien message. They played it back dozens of times, analyzing the way Ambassador Zix Thera spoke and the demands the council had made. What they discovered was both fascinating and completely ridiculous. The aliens had made a huge mistake. They clearly did not understand humans at all. The council kept talking about surrendering to the ruling apex predator of Earth and expected one single leader to speak for all of humanity. They seemed to think that Earth worked like their own planets, where one powerful being controlled everyone else. Dr. Turner called President Morrison at 3 a.m. to share what his team had found. The aliens were asking for Earth's leader to come forward and surrender, but they had no idea that humans did not work that way. Earth had almost 200 different countries, thousands of different cultures, and billions of people who could barely agree on anything. The president was tired and stressed, but he started laughing when Dr. Turner explained the situation. The most advanced beings in the galaxy were confused because they could not figure out who was in charge of Earth. It was like asking which single ant was the leader of an entire anthill. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening on the International Space Station. Captain Danny Cooper was supposed to be monitoring the alien ship and sending reports back to Earth. Instead, he found himself in the middle of the strangest diplomatic contact in human history. The alien ship tried to communicate directly with the space station. They sent a formal message asking to speak with Earth's Supreme Commander. Captain Cooper, who was just a regular astronaut trying to do his job, suddenly became the most important person in human space. But Cooper did not panic or try to pretend he was more important than he was. Instead, he did something that only a human would think to do. He patched the alien communication through to Earth, specifically to the Global Unity Festival that was happening in New York City. Lucy Davis was on stage at the festival, telling jokes to a crowd of thousands when her microphone suddenly connected to the alien ship. She was in the middle of a comedy routine about how hard it was to get her family to agree on what movie to watch when Ambassador Zix Thera's voice came through the speakers. The crystal alien asked to speak with Earth's ruler. Lucy, without missing a beat, looked up at the audience and said, "Well, my mom thinks she runs everything, but she can't even program the coffee machine." The crowd laughed, and somehow this became Earth's first official response to the Galactic Council. The comedy show was being broadcast live around the world. Millions of people watched as Lucy continued her routine, but now she was talking directly to the aliens. She explained that Earth did not have one ruler, because humans were too stubborn to let any single person be in charge of everything. Ambassador Zix Thera tried to interrupt and demand a serious response, but Lucy treated the alien like a difficult audience member. She asked if the council had tried turning their demand off and on again, because that fixed most problems with complicated systems. The aliens became more confused with every joke. They kept asking for Earth's military commander, political leader, or dominant social structure. Lucy kept explaining that humans had all of those things, but also had about 7 billion different opinions about which ones were actually important. General Carter watched this incredible conversation from the Pentagon while trying to coordinate Earth's actual defense. She had military experts from every major country working together to figure out how to fight the alien ship. But she also had to manage the fact that humanity's first contact with aliens was happening during a comedy show. The internet exploded with excitement. Videos of Lucy talking to the aliens were shared faster than any content in human history. People started making their own response videos, explaining to the council why their particular neighborhood, family, or friend group would never surrender to anyone. Captain Steve Mitchell, working with Dr. Nina Foster and a team of engineers, started analyzing the energy patterns coming from the alien ship. They were trying to understand how the council's technology worked, hoping to find some weakness that Earth could use. What they discovered was interesting. The alien ship was incredibly powerful, but its systems seemed designed to work in very specific ways. All of their technology appeared to be built for fighting enemies who behaved in predictable patterns. Dr. Foster realized that the Council's weapons and defenses were meant to handle organized military forces with clear command structures. Their computers were programmed to identify enemy leaders, calculate battle formations, and respond to logical military strategies. The problem was that humans were not behaving logically at all. Instead of organizing a military response, people were making jokes. Instead of choosing a single leader to negotiate, Earth was responding with comedy shows, social media posts, and random conversations from space stations. Captain Mitchell reported that the alien ship's scanning system seemed to be having trouble figuring out what humanity was doing. Their computers kept trying to identify Earth's military structure, but every time they thought they found it, humans would do something completely unexpected. The Council sent more messages demanding to speak with proper authorities. Each time they got connected to different people. A pizza delivery driver in Chicago explained that he could not speak for all of Earth because he was busy trying to find the right apartment building. A librarian in London told them that they should fill out the proper forms if they wanted to check out a planet. President Morrison tried to organize a serious response, but even the world's leaders were caught up in the strange mood that was spreading across the planet. Prime Minister Brooks suggested that they should ask the aliens if they had tried asking nicely instead of threatening everyone. By the end of the second day, the Galactic Council was receiving thousands of different responses from Earth. Some were serious attempts at communication, but most were jokes, questions, or completely random comments from humans who thought it was funny to talk to aliens. The Council had never encountered anything like this in 12,000 years of conquering planets. Every other species they had defeated had responded with either immediate surrender or organized military resistance. Humans were responding with chaos, laughter, and what appeared to be a complete inability to take the situation seriously. Ambassador Zixathara sent increasingly frustrated messages to Earth, demanding proper respect for the Council's authority. The responses kept getting stranger and more confusing, until the crystal being began to wonder if humans were actually intelligent enough to understand what was happening to them. The third day brought something nobody expected. Ambassador Zixathara was becoming angry, and when crystal beings got angry, their whole body started glowing with hot red light. The alien sent message after message demanding to speak with Earth's Alpha Prime, which was apparently what the Council called the most important leader of any planet. The problem was that humans kept explaining there was no such thing as an Alpha Prime on Earth. Every time the Council thought they had found the right person to talk to, that person would say they were not actually in charge of everything and suggest talking to someone else instead. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Rodriguez had an idea that was either brilliant or completely crazy. He was sitting in a meeting with other military officers when he suddenly stood up and said that if the aliens expected normal military resistance, humanity should give them something totally different. General Carter looked at Rodriguez like he had lost his mind, but she listened as he explained his plan. The Council's ship was designed to fight organized armies with clear battle plans. Their computers were built to understand normal military tactics. So what would happen if humanity did not use any normal tactics at all? Rodriguez suggested turning the entire internet into a weapon. Not a cyber weapon that would attack the alien computers, but something much stranger. If the Council wanted to understand Earth's command structure, they should be forced to deal with all of it at the same time. The plan was simple and impossible. Every human on Earth with access to the internet would start broadcasting at the same time. They would send messages, videos, songs, arguments, and random thoughts directly at the alien ship. The Council's translation computers would have to process billions of different conversations happening all at once. President Morrison thought the plan was insane, but Dr. Turner supported it. The scientist had been studying the alien technology and believed their systems worked by finding patterns and making predictions. Human chaos might be the perfect way to overload their computers. Social media companies around the world agreed to help with the plan. Every platform would coordinate to create the biggest, loudest, most confusing broadcast in human history. The goal was not to attack the aliens, but to give them exactly what they were asking for, a complete picture of human civilization. Engineer Katie Bell was working on the International Lunar Station when she made an important discovery. She had been monitoring the alien ship's energy patterns and noticed something strange. The Council's technology seemed to run on quantum probability systems that needed predictable data to function properly. Katie realized that the alien computers were constantly trying to calculate what humans would do next, but human behavior was too random for their systems to handle. Every time someone on Earth did something unexpected, it caused tiny glitches in the Council's technology. Dr. Foster was working with Captain Mitchell's team when they confirmed Katie's discovery. The alien ship was incredibly advanced, but it was also completely rigid. Their technology could do amazing things, but only if everything followed logical patterns. Human unpredictability was like throwing sand into a perfectly designed machine. The breakthrough came when Captain Mitchell's 7-year-old daughter Emma accidentally connected to the alien communication system during her school project about penguins. She was trying to send her report to her teacher when her computer somehow linked to the Council's network instead. Emma spent 10 minutes telling Ambassador Zixithera about different types of penguins, why they could not fly, and whether aliens had any pets that looked like penguins. The crystal being tried to explain that this was not appropriate diplomatic communication, but Emma kept asking questions about alien animals and whether they had ice cream on their planet. This innocent conversation caused massive problems for the Council's computer systems. Their diplomatic protocols had no way to handle a human child asking if aliens liked to build snowmen. The quantum processors that ran their ship started making calculation errors because they could not predict what Emma would say next, President. Morrison coordinated with world leaders to launch the Great Human Randomness Project. At exactly noon on the 4th day, every human with internet access started broadcasting something different. People shared recipes while arguing about politics. Musicians played different songs at the same time. Children told stories about their pets while adults complained about traffic. The result was beautiful chaos. Millions of different languages, arguments about whether pizza was better than hamburgers, cooking shows, dance videos, people reading poetry, others explaining how to fix broken cars, and thousands of other completely random human activities all broadcast directly at the alien ship. Ambassador Zixithera's communication systems crashed within the first hour. The crystal being had never experienced anything like this in 12,000 years of galactic conquest. Every time their computers tried to identify Earth's command structure, they found a different answer. Earth appeared to have millions of leaders, none of whom agreed with each other about anything. The Council tried to focus on military targets, but even that became confusing. General Carter was running military operations from the Pentagon, but she was also receiving tactical advice from video game players, suggestions from history teachers, and battle plans drawn in crayon by elementary school students who thought fighting space aliens sounded fun. The aliens discovered that humans had military experts, but they also had millions of people who played war games for entertainment. Earth had political leaders, but also had comedians who made fun of those leaders every day. Every human seemed to think they were qualified to have opinions about everything. Dr. Turner received reports that the Council ship was experiencing technical difficulties. Their perfect quantum systems were being overwhelmed by the sheer randomness of human behavior. The alien computers kept trying to find patterns in the chaos, But human civilization was too complex and contradictory for their logical minds to understand. On the fifth day, something unprecedented happened. The Council's own citizens, other alien species that had been conquered and controlled for thousands of years, started accessing Earth's broadcasts. They were seeing human concepts like personal freedom, creative expression, and the right to disagree with authority for the first time in centuries. Rebellion began spreading across the galaxy as suppressed alien civilizations remembered what they had lost when the Council took control of their planets. Species that had forgotten how to laugh, create art, or think for themselves started questioning why they had to follow Council orders. Ambassador Zixathera found themselves dealing with the most dangerous thing the Galactic Council had ever encountered. Not human weapons or technology, but human ideas about freedom and individual choice spreading to other planets like a virus of independence. Ambassador Zixathera called an emergency meeting with the Council's war strategists aboard their massive ship. The crystal being was glowing with frustrated orange light as they tried to explain what was happening on Earth. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council had conquered planets using the same perfect method that never failed. War strategist Kalmoon, a being that looked like a floating metal sphere covered in blinking lights, reviewed their standard conquest procedures. First, they would demonstrate overwhelming force by appearing with their largest warship. Second, they would demand surrender from the planet's leadership. Third, they would give the species time to accept their fate. Finally, they would integrate the new subjects into their orderly galactic empire. Earth was breaking every single rule in their ancient playbook. There was no single leadership to surrender. There was no unified response to their demands. Instead of fear, the humans were showing amusement. Instead of organization, there was chaos. Instead of respect for Council authority, there were dance videos. The worst part was that their own behavioral analysis computers had crashed 17 times, trying to understand human responses. Every time the quantum processors thought they had figured out what humans would do next, the humans would do something completely different and impossible to predict. War strategist Veltar, who appeared as a collection of floating geometric shapes, reported that their standard psychological warfare techniques were having the opposite effect. When they had shown their massive ship to intimidate humanity, humans had started making jokes about its size. When they had used their most authoritative voice to demand submission, humans had responded with comedy shows and cooking recipes. The situation became much worse when reports started coming from other parts of the galaxy. The Council's own citizens, alien species that had lived under Council rule for thousands of years, were somehow accessing Earth's broadcasts. They were being exposed to dangerous human concepts like individual freedom, creative expression, and the revolutionary idea that people could disagree with their government. Ambassador Zixathera received urgent messages from Council governors across the galaxy. On the planet Theta Prime, citizens were asking why they needed permission to paint their buildings different colors. On Zeta Station, workers were wondering why they could not choose their own jobs. On the mining world of Kappa 7, beings were questioning why they had to follow the same daily schedule for their entire lives. The crystal being realized that humans were accidentally teaching the entire galaxy about rebellion. Earth's broadcasts were showing millions of suppressed aliens what life could be like with personal freedom and individual choice. The humans were not just refusing to surrender, they were spreading ideas that threatened the Council's control over everything they had built. On Earth, Dr. Turner was working with linguist Peter Hayes and anthropologist Dr. Grace Kim to establish proper communication with the Council. They had been studying the aliens' messages and had discovered something important about the Council's history. The research team found that the Galactic Council was not as ancient as they claimed to be. They had only existed for 12,000 years, which was recent compared to some of the civilizations they had conquered. Before the Council formed, the galaxy had been full of diverse species with different cultures, governments, and ways of life. The Council had spent those 12,000 years systematically eliminating diversity wherever they found it. They conquered planets not just for resources or territory, but to impose their idea of perfect order. They removed chaos, creativity, and unpredictability from every species they encountered. Dr. Turner realized that the Council was terrified of exactly what humans represented. They had built their entire civilization on the idea that order was better than freedom. that predictability was safer than creativity, and that one perfect system could work for everyone in the galaxy. General Carter was receiving strange reports from Colonel Andy Clark about what was happening inside the Council's ship. Their monitoring equipment was picking up internal communications that suggested the aliens were having serious problems with their own technology. The Council's rigid hierarchy could not handle the concept that humans might actually be laughing at them rather than with them. Their social programming had no way to process the idea that a primitive species could find their ultimate authority amusing. The very thought that humans were not taking them seriously was causing fundamental errors in their command systems. Captain Mitchell's engineering team made another important discovery. The Council's ship was not just experiencing technical difficulties from human chaos, it was actually becoming more efficient in some ways. The small doses of human unpredictability were making their rigid quantum systems work better and solve problems more creatively. Dr. Foster found that the alien technology had been designed to be perfect, but perfection meant it could not adapt or improve. Human randomness was forcing their systems to find new solutions and think in ways they had never been programmed to consider. The chaos that was supposed to break their computers was actually making them smarter. Meanwhile, the rebellion spreading across the galaxy was growing stronger every day. Species that had forgotten how to be creative were rediscovering art, music, and individual expression. Planets that had followed the same routines for centuries were suddenly full of beings asking questions and making their own choices. The Council's governors were reporting riots, protests, and mass refusals to follow orders. Beings who had been perfectly obedient for generations were suddenly acting like humans, arguing with authority, making jokes, and insisting on their right to be different from everyone else. Ambassador Zixithera faced the most serious crisis in Council history. They had come to Earth expecting to add one more conquered planet to their empire. Instead, they had accidentally started a galactic revolution that was threatening to destroy everything they had built over 12,000 years. The crystal being realized that they had made a terrible mistake. Humans were not just another species to be conquered and controlled. They were something the Council had never encountered before. A civilization that was stronger because of their chaos, more creative because of their disagreements, and more dangerous because they refused to be afraid. The 7-day deadline was almost over, but now the Council was no longer sure they wanted humanity to surrender. The bigger question was whether the Galactic Council itself would survive contact with human ideas about freedom and individual choice that were spreading like wildfire across their perfectly ordered empire. The 7th day arrived with the biggest surprise in galactic history. Instead of surrendering or preparing for war, humanity did something that no species had ever done before. They made a counter-proposal to the mighty Galactic Council. President Morrison stood in front of cameras broadcasting to the entire galaxy, but he was not alone. Next to him were people chosen completely at random from around the world. Farmer Joe Miller from Kansas stood beside teacher Betty Wright from Maine. Mechanic Carlos Lopez from Mexico was next to artist Holly Chen from California. These ordinary humans were about to change the course of galactic civilization. The president began by thanking Ambassador Zixithera for the interesting week they had all shared together. He explained that humanity had considered the Council's offer of conquest very carefully, but they had decided to make a different suggestion instead. Earth wanted to propose a cultural exchange program. Instead of the Council conquering humanity, both sides could learn from each other as equals and partners. Humans could teach other species about creativity, individual freedom, and the benefits of controlled chaos. In return, other civilizations could share their knowledge, technology, and different ways of understanding the universe. The presentation was delivered as a musical performance featuring contributions from every continent on Earth. Musicians from Africa played drums while singers from Europe provided harmony. Dancers from Asia moved in rhythm with instruments from South America. The entire presentation was simultaneously translated into 4,000 different languages and broadcast with recommendations for foods that represented human diversity. Admiral Hughes revealed the scientific discovery that Captain Mitchell's team had made. Human chaos was not just confusing the Council's technology, it was actually making their systems work better. The rigid quantum computers that ran their ship had become more efficient and creative, when exposed to small amounts of human unpredictability. The Admiral explained that perfect order might seem ideal, but it actually prevented growth and improvement. Human randomness had forced the alien systems to find new solutions and think in ways they had never been programmed to consider. The Council's technology was becoming smarter and more adaptable. Because of contact with human diversity, Dr. Foster presented research showing that the Council's approach to galactic governance had created a fundamental problem. By eliminating chaos and creativity from every species they conquered, they had made their empire weaker and less able to handle unexpected challenges. Diversity and disagreement were not problems to be solved, they were strengths that made civilizations more resilient. The turning point came when comedian Rick Torres and musician Diana Santos performed a special show broadcast directly to Ambassador Zixthara. The performance was designed to help the crystal being understand what humans meant when they talked about joy, laughter, and the simple pleasure of being surprised by something unexpected. For the first time in thousands of years, Ambassador Zixthara experienced genuine laughter. The crystal being's molecular structure began resonating in harmony with the human comedy, creating beautiful music that had not been heard from their species since before the Council was formed. The alien remembered what it felt like to be happy. Instead of just efficient, the resonance effect spread through the Council's ship as other alien beings rediscovered emotions and experiences they had suppressed for millennia. War strategist Kalmun's lights began blinking in rhythm with human music. War strategist Veltar's geometric shapes started moving in patterns that served no logical purpose but somehow felt right. Reports came in from across the galaxy showing that the rebellion had become a revolution of rediscovery. Species were not just questioning Council authority, they were remembering who they used to be before they were conquered. Planets were exploding with art, music, literature, and individual expression that had been banned for centuries. The Council faced a choice that would determine the future of galactic civilization. They could try to destroy Earth and suppress the revolution, but that would mean destroying the very thing that was making their technology better and their citizens happier. Or they could accept humanity's counterproposal and transform from conquerors into coordinators of a truly diverse galactic community. Ambassador Zixthara made the decision that changed everything. Speaking directly to President Morrison and the assembled humans, the crystal being formally accepted Earth's counterproposal on behalf of the Galactic Council. Instead of conquest, they would establish the first galactic cultural exchange station in orbit around Earth. The new station would serve as a meeting place where species from across the galaxy could share knowledge, art, and ideas without anyone being forced to give up their individual identity. The Council would transform from an empire that imposed order into an organization that celebrated and protected diversity. Construction of the Cultural Exchange Station began immediately, with humans and aliens working together on the project. Children from Earth were among the first to meet young beings from other worlds, teaching them games like soccer and learning about sports played with 6 legs or energy fields instead of balls. President Morrison shared pizza with Ambassador Zixthara while they watched Earth's children play with alien youngsters in the station's recreational areas. The crystal being admitted that they had learned more about effective leadership in 1 week with humans than in 12,000 years of galactic conquest. General Carter retired from military service to become Earth's first ambassador of controlled chaos. Her new job was to help other species find the balance between order and creativity, teaching them that a little bit of unpredictability could make any system stronger and more adaptable. The galaxy began to change in ways that no one had expected. Planets that had been identical copies of Council efficiency became unique worlds with their own cultures and traditions. Species rediscovered their individual identities while also learning to work together as equals, rather than rulers and subjects. Trade networks evolved from simple resource distribution into complex cultural exchanges, where ideas were as valuable as materials. Scientific research accelerated as different species brought their unique perspectives to solving galactic challenges. Art and entertainment flourished as beings shared their creativity across the stars. The Council's original mission, to bring order to a chaotic galaxy, had been replaced by something much better, a galactic community that was stronger because of its diversity rather than despite it. The threat of human conquest had become the gift of human friendship. and the galaxy would never be the same. Years later, when new species were discovered and invited to join the galactic community, they were always told the story of how humanity had defeated the mighty council, not with weapons or threats, but with laughter, creativity, and the simple revolutionary idea that being different was not something to be feared, but something to be celebrated.